I was recently chatting with a parent and she asked this question. What do parents do with these weeks off? So, if you haven't seen this on our calendar yet, we are in school for 6 weeks and then we take a week off and then we're back for 6 weeks. And right now, we do not have a summer session, so we're off during the summer as well. And so, for families that are used to a traditional schedule, they've got a spring break and a Christmas break. But other than that, they just they plan to be off during those times or their holiday times. And so if there's both parents are working in these families, then this brings up a question of, oh, random weeks off, what do we do? So I don't fully know how to answer what parents do, all of our parents, during that week off. But I think the thing I would point out is to rethink the school schedule. And if you look at our society as a whole in America, this school schedule kind of runs everything. It tells us when to eat, it tells us when we get to be with our children, it tells us when to sleep. I mean, I've seen uh, people at the bus stop at 6 something in the morning waiting for a bus. So I'm not saying that any of that is inherently bad. I'm just saying let's bring into question why we're doing these things. Society has set up this way of living for parents based on a school schedule. And at Acton, like other things, we're saying actually that isn't what's most effective for our learners. And so we're going to go back to something that's more effective. So, from a learning design standpoint, there's this arc of learning. That's what we call it. So we start with a question or a challenge or a big idea that takes us from, well, it could be in a day, it could be in a week. There's a learning arc in a week, but the one I'm talking about is in a session. So our 6 week block is called a session, and there's this whole learning arc to the session. So, but an easy example I'm thinking of is in high school, one of our quests is the chemistry and rockets quest. And the big question is, will I learn how to make a rocket fly by the end of the session this high with this much fuel and this big a fuse for this long? Something like that. So we start at the beginning not knowing much or assessing what we do know about rockets, and how do we close that gap from where we start to the end of the arc where we discover, did I learn what I needed to about chemistry to make my rocket do the thing, fly, launch? So in the middle, there's all this learning and all these challenges that take us to this closing, a culmination of this learning experience. And that happens at the end of our 6 weeks. On the Thursday of end of every 6 weeks is exhibition. And exhibition is when the learners showcase what they've learned. Did their rocket fly? They're going to show their parents, anyone that they want to invite, the public. These are open to the public, if their rocket flies. And sometimes this showcases, well, what maybe they didn't learn. And we're okay with that, because if we have this experience of learning over 6 weeks, and at the end we're able to assess our learning with our peers and parents and be like, actually, I didn't learn, I kind of failed, my rocket didn't fly, and that could be symbolic for anything, then what a great learning opportunity. That lesson in and of itself, with the opportunity to reflect on that, to think about how I would do it differently next time, to think about what I did learn. And I don't mean just academically, what were the lessons of the 6 weeks for me, is so powerful. One of the things that our guide team says is that 90% of the learning happens in the debrief. And the 6 week schedule allows us to have an intensive kind of experience for 6 weeks. And then we showcase something at exhibition. Then on the Friday after exhibition, there's this whole day of debrief. We call it Money Day. I'll probably do another video about that. But on Money Day, there's this reflection. There are There's feedback offered and received from peers about how our leadership was that session, how our work ethic appeared to be. And there's also a self-reflection about, did I show up this session for myself? And that's designed so deliberately to have an intense experience in learning and a focus of learning, a theme, if you will, that guides our 6 weeks, then a closing culmination exhibition where the parents and the public that come are also asked to give their feedback. Then together on the Friday, they come together as a studio to look at the feedback received from the public. Think about, okay, next time, how can we plan better? How can we create a better experience for those that are at exhibition with us? And then on a personal level, how can I show up differently? What do I feel great about what I did do? And what would I like to do differently next time? And then session closes and there's a week off. This week off is like, the only thing I can think of to liken it to is, scientists say that when we're asleep, our brain is able to take all of the information from the day if we get a good night's sleep and let it process in a way that, like in our memory, we remember things when we rest and let it sink in and just let it become a part of us. This week off is similar to that in that there's not the regular school schedule, they're off. There is a time when they don't have these regularly scheduled challenges that they've been doing for 6 weeks. There should be a period of rest and break and leisure. And it's a great time for families to go on vacation. So from a learning design standpoint, it's deliberate for let's let all of that information from rocketry and chemistry and the math that I learned and the leadership and peer learning that we did and the reflection from the session, let's just let that become a part of me. Let's let it sink in and breathe. And then after that week, let's come back and we're going to start a new learning arc, a new theme of learning where we're doing a similar routine, but with a different theme, a different focus. And it allows our brain to really focus in on certain areas and then retain that information, as well as an opportunity that we need as humans to reflect on our own patterns, our own habits, and then try again for 6 weeks with a different approach, with new strategies. So 6 weeks on, 1 week off, that is the schedule that we follow for all of our age groups. And it's really powerful from a learning design standpoint. From a family standpoint, I can see why that can cause questions, because if you have young children, someone needs to care for them. If you're a working parent, someone needs to care for your children. So I don't exactly know how all of our families have worked it out. I know sometimes they'll get together and trade, and several of the heroes are at one person's house kind of doing, well, they say they're doing Acton at home. They sometimes create their own schedule. The parents will post, they'll do, learning activities, whatever it is they do. That's how some of our families have worked it out. Other parents just make sure that they plan those weeks off or work at home on those weeks. And some families take the opportunity to travel on those weeks off when most of the rest of America is in school. It can open up some really cool travel opportunities for your family. Not even if you need to go far and wide, but to just have a few days as a family, an hour away, a camping trip, something like that. So we do take weeks off. That's why we do it. And families make it work. Again, coming back to this principle that I keep, if you're watching many of my videos, what has value? What is the value in the traditional school schedule? Well, it started out because we needed to have our children help on the farm, and so we have summers off to be to be helpers on the farm, and we have this harvest break because we're harvesting the crop in the fall. But during the winter time, we don't really need the workers, our children workers, so they can go to school. That doesn't really make sense or apply to our society anymore. It's just how we do it. So, what value does that schedule bring to your family? Is there a way? I guess I challenge and invite you to think through, how can we make a different schedule work for our family? What conversations do I need to have at work? What can I rearrange so that I'm able to participate in this same kind of schedule for my life, like a 6 weeks on, a real deep focus, a way to improve, and then 1 week to be with my family, to relax, to connect, and then come back fresh. And I can't tell you how many times we've gotten a message that parents say, "Oh, my kids keep asking when we get to go back to school. They don't like their weeks off. They want to be at school." And that week off also helps that. It's like after Christmas break, everyone in the whole world is excited to get back to school. And this is a mini version of that happens several times throughout the year to help keep that love of learning alive, to help the need for a human to refresh, relax, and assimilate the knowledge and come back sort of fresh start is so vital for human health and for really good learning. So that's why we have a week off. Would love to chat with you about that. If you feel like it's something that can't work for your family, let's just have a conversation, because somehow it always works, but maybe in the brainstorming together, we can figure out how that week off can work for your family, and not just work for your family, but benefit you and your family in the long run. Schedule a tour to come meet with us, or schedule a visit day for your hero to come have their half day visit, meet some new friends, try out Acton, and see if it is the learning place that fits your family.